I love weird and creepy Pokemon fusions, and as suggested by this comment, I decided to fuse Machamp and Lickitung. Of course, these two are pretty different, but don't you worry cause I already have a plan. I'm gonna tackle this problem by taking Machamp's body and giving it some Lickitungy details, so something like this. If you look closely, you'll notice that Lickitung is pink, so I decided to use pink clay. Sadly, they didn't have pink at the art store, so I just mixed white clay with a little bit of red paint to achieve that nice strawberry ice cream color. Then it was just a case of pinching and squeezing a ball of this clay until I got the shape of the torso. I wanted to add all the muscly details, but I decided that adding these details would be easier once this piece dried. So while that dried, I decided to work on the legs. I started by making a couple of balls which got rolled into a chubby worm with one end thicker than the other. I didn't want them to look too rigid, so I bent them at the middle part. After a couple of hours, the torso and the legs were mostly dried, so I started to work on those muscly details that I talked about before. So I added little lumps of clay where I considered necessary, and in order to blend them nicely, I applied some water. Then I put a little triangle shaped piece in the crotch area, and with the help of some wire and super glue I attached the legs onto the body. The arms followed a pretty similar process, but this time in a smaller scale. As you may have already noticed, this clay changes color when it dries, and that's pretty cool and all, but that means that if I don't prepare enough clay of a specific color and then I run out of this mixed clay, I would have to prepare more, and getting the exact same color can be kinda tricky, and that is exactly what happened to me here. So the figure ended up having 2 tones of pink. My solution for that was to paint the whole figure, but before that I had to finish the main sculpt of the body. The head started as a nice little ball which got stuck in place with the help of some glue. Then I pinched it a little bit to get the upper part of the mouth, and then I made this fat flat little worm for the lower jaw. The next step was to make the hands. The process for them was pretty straightforward, starting with a little square shaped flat piece to which I glued each finger in place. The feet followed a pretty similar process, but instead of starting from a square-shaped flat piece, I made a square-shaped not so flat piece, and instead of attaching onto it 4 worms, I attached just 2. And then I blended all the seams with a little bit of clay and water. With the main sculpt of the body finished, it was time to paint it. I started by covering the whole body with a pretty delicious looking pink coat. I love this color, it makes the figure looks like it's made out of chewing gum. As the base color of the clay was already pink, I just needed 1 coat of paint to get an even coverage. Sadly, this base coat was looking kind of flat, so I decided to accentuate some of the muscle details with a darker shade of pink. I also noticed that Lickitung has this weird mark on the body, and I wanted to include some of that because why not? After that I also painted a thumb with black paint and continued to add other details like the belt. Of course, this figure wasn't gonna stand on its own, so I mixed a bit of brown paint with some clay in order to make a base. My intention was to make some sort of rock, so I used a piece of sandpaper to give it some texture, but it ended up looking like a turd, so that's pretty cool. And finally I attached the figure onto the base. But then I realized that Lickitung has a tail, and I thought, well, why not? Oh, and let's not forget about what makes Lickitung a good lover. Okay, and that's it! And what the f***? It looks like it could be in the sex offender shuffle. Okay, I hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like on this video. If you didn't, well, I don't know. Leave a dislike. Leave a comment too. Okay, bye!